All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another round of coffee and questions. And what's today's topic? Well, I told you in one of the past videos I had a friend. He went ahead and bought a small wood lathe. He's going to do kind of a side gig or, kind of like a little side business to generate some extra money and how much fun it can be. So if you didn't see that video, you might want to switch back to it. If you're familiar with lathe work and stuff like that, you know that once you get the lathe, tools can become expensive. So I'm going to show you how to make some. I did this in the beginning. It wasn't that I didn't have the money. I suppose if I stretch things, I could buy tools, right and left and all the new fancy stuff. And, I decided to try to go ahead and make some of them myself. So I'm going to share with you the ones that I made, and they work, okay? So let's start off with the first thing that you can do is I buy a high quality scraper, and I didn't buy it with the handle because I got a really good deal on it. The metal comes from Sheffield, England. I mean, it's a really good scraper. So I made my own handle for this. Here's the scraper, and there's the handle. Now you can get the handle off of a lot of places online that'll sell you just the wood blanks, a square, and you can make these yourself. And you put brass ferrule, it's like right up here, sharpen it. Now what I like about doing this is you can make this to your own liking. A lot of lathe tools are real short. Nothing wrong with that. You can build your tool collection. I mean, as you go forward and you're having fun with the hobby and you're making a few bucks. The wood was inexpensive. I think this is pecan or oak. I forgot now. Anyway, I went ahead, I turned the handle, put the ferrule on it, put the tool down into it. You can use epoxy or whatever you wish. And this has turned out to be great. This gives me a lot of leverage, of course. I mean, not that I need the leverage. It's just more comfortable having it, this long. I'm 6'5", so standing in front of the lathe and you get the lathe up to the height that you want, this is nice to be able to use this, and you make it to your own liking. Now, I got a carbide cutter, and again, I made a handle for that. It's a little bit thinner. This one's made out of oak. Put the ferrule on it, same thing. It's got the carbide tip. And I wanted this for two reasons. People say, well, you should learn to use the gouge. That's true. I have kids in the neighborhood that come up, hang around. They like to play around with the lathe, see what it's about. And it's kind of fun for them. They can make like a small bowl or something, very quickly. We put a finish on it, they take it home, and they're all jazzed. This is a little bit safer to use than a gouge when they're afraid of those initial catches that you get when you're learning to use the gouge. So, and this actually is a great tool all the way around. I mean, I use this a lot of times for finish cutting just before I go to sanding. And, it's up to you. But anyway, we're talking about the handle. You can make these yourself. Saves you money. What else can save you money? I took this scrap right here. It's a 2x2 and a dowel. The dowel rod and the diameter doesn't matter. And I made this to where it fits in here kind of tightly. Okay, so what good is that? Well, let's say that you're turning a vessel or a bowl and you don't know where the bottom of this is while you're trying to hollow it. You can tap on this on the lathe, set this in there. Okay, that's too far out, you see. And as you tap this, or you push on this right here, okay, and now I push on that last little bit. If I put wax on this, it would slide a lot easier, but I'm just showing you, it's like a depth gauge, and you can make this yourself out of scrap wood. Costs next to nothing, and then you turn it around and run it flush like this on top, and it will show you then where the very bottom of the turning is, or the bowl, whatever you're doing. Very easy to make, cost you nothing. You probably got the scrap wood laying around, and if you don't, I'll bet you out at Home Depot or one of these places you can find cutoffs or whatever. This is not costly. This is like so cheap to make, and it works great, okay? Better than paying a lot of money online, for one of these depth gauge tools. This came in real handy for me in the very beginning. I still use it, but I have a hollowing rig and I use the laser and I can tell the bottom too that way. But lots of different ways. This is just an inexpensive tool that you can make. Okay, So let's move on. Let me give you a couple of other things that you can make also and save yourself money. Okay, now this looks like just some funky, cheap little bent piece of wire, but I'll tell you how handy this was in the beginning when I started turning and I started hollowing things, whether it was a bowl or a vessel. This right here, you go down to the hardware store, you can get all these pieces right here, and this is just a piece of dowel rod right here on the end. I think it was like $2 if I remember right. And I came home and I bent this over here myself. I just took a guess. I knew I could always cut this down if I needed to. And I created this arc. And I put this right here, this connector. They sell them at the hardware store. And I used more of that same aluminum rod. I put a dowel on the end. Now, when you bring this all the way up to right here where they're touching, let's call that ground zero, and then you put a black mark with a Sharpie or something right here on the end. That tells you when these two are touching, where there is no more room or anything left. Now, when you put this over a bowl or over that vessel, and you want to know where your depth is, you just keep moving this in like this, and you see how far away you are from that black mark. You go, okay, hey, you know, look, it's still quite a ways away. So you do a little more hollowing and you're like, shoot, man, that's getting close. So you go ahead and you can stop it then. So this is a way to tell how deep you are into something. Now the other thing, and I have a friend that he does this too because of the way that he actually hollows. So right here, you know, you got a chuck, and he'll bring the other piece down inside of this like this. And when he's doing this, because a lot of times, I mean, you either have like on the base of this where you're going to take it off and it's going to be nice and smooth and flat, or I mean, sometimes it's inset. So what he does is he went ahead and he made one like this, and then that way he slips that on there, he comes across like this, and he can tell where his depth is in turning. $2. I think that's all this cost when I made this. Yes, I still use it, but you know, I've been doing this for a while, so I've got other, you know, tools now that are a little more advanced that tell me the same thing, meaning the hollowing rig with, you know, the laser on it. So some of these I don't use as much, but there are still instances when I do use these. Okay, let's move on. Let me show you some more. Okay, now most lathes come with a tool rest, and everybody goes, that's great. They're usually straight. Okay, and you got to maintenance them, you know, you got to keep that top edge clean, sometimes run a file across it, get all the crap off of it so your tool doesn't stick when you're sliding. And I had a friend go, they're costly when you go to buy them. I go, that's true. I go, but let me explain to you what I did in the beginning. I went out to a steel supplier, not Home Depot, not Lowe's. I mean, you got a local steel supplier somewhere around you. Go out there and ask them if they have cutoffs. A lot of times they do. They're more than happy to sell them to you at a very cheap price because they're going to go into a scrap bin for recycling anyway. So, you know, I always go out, I root around. That's where I get a lot of odds and ends for, you know, my welding projects, stuff like that. I got on my banjo, that's what holds the tool rest in, is 1 inch in diameter. So I found some stock out there, 1 inch. Well, hey, how much you want? Give me $5. Okay, fine. So I give them the $5, and I came home and I cut this myself. And I turned around, and now you got to make sure you know what you're doing. I mean, but I welded one onto the other right here to create this straight T-post. We'll call it a T-post. Okay, but make sure you know what you're doing and you're welding so that, you know, it is on there nice and like ironclad tight, and you didn't do some half-ass weld because you'll end up getting hurt. So if you don't know how to do this, what my neighbor did is he stopped at a welding shop. And I wasn't around at the time, and he told me, the guy, you know, offered to do it for next to nothing because it only takes a couple of minutes to do this, blasted it out. You could do it that way too if you don't think you can weld something that's this thick. So this is another cheap option rather than buying one brand new online at full retail. So like I said, it was like $5 for the steel. I had enough left over. I've still got some laying around. I was going to make another one, and I haven't done it yet, but this is things that you can play around with that'll save you money. That's my point. Okay, let's move on. Let me show you a couple of other tool rests that I made where I saved a lot of money. Okay, another thing that you can do is you can go to Home Depot, I mean a lot of these places, and buy a contractor's stake. There's steel, right here. Welded a 1-inch post on there, and now you have another tool rest, and this one's got a curve in it. I mean, it comes in handy for doing bowls and doing a lot of things where there's a curve, and you don't have to keep resetting it. You just come along with your tool and you can make that radius. So again, you know, this does not cost much at all. I forgot the cost of the contractor's stake. I had the 1-inch, like I was telling you, left over from the $5 scrap piece that I bought. And I made this one, I made one other one. Let me show you the other one. Now this is a curved one. But I wanted one, I was doing larger bowls at the time. And anyway, I thought it'd be nice if I had a large curved one. It would work great around the outside of the bowl while I'm turning. And it would work good if I reversed it, and it would work good on the inside. So I made this one. Again, it's a contractor's stake. Heat up, bend it, or you know, have your local blacksmith welding place do it for you. Just go talk to them. A lot of times they'll do it for you real cheap. And here's that 1-inch post again, and it's welded real well, and this sits in there. And I can do, like on the outside, I can come along with a gouge or whatever you're using, or I can flip this around on the front of my lathe, and I can do this, and I can get into the inside by just adjusting this. This costs next to nothing, both of these. They'll save you a lot of money in the beginning. They work just as well as anything that you're going to buy online. I know I'll get disagreement with that in the comments, but I'm telling you, it will. These are rusted to hell. I mean, I haven't cleaned them up lately because I haven't used them in a while. They will work. They will last you just as long as anything that you're buying online. You'll save a lot of money. Take that cost savings, upgrade, you know, your tools, upgrade, you know, your gouges, upgrade your scrapers, or buy something else for the lathe. These are things that you can make. It'll save you a lot of money. All right, folks, I'm the Home Handyman. I hope you click subscribe. I mean, drop a comment below. I mean, if you know of something else that you can make at home that's a cost savings. This all relates to lathe work, I understand. I've already done some on how to make, you know, welding, bending jigs and stuff like that. That's in the previous video on welding. Again, saves you a lot of money. You can use that to buy more material, more finishes, more tooling, whatever. All right, I hope you click subscribe. I hope you keep following me. I'm going to leave you some links below on some other turning tools that I have for my lathe that I have bought and that have come in real handy. I'm going to show you one before I go. Give me just a sec. Now these are dirty. Now these I find to be real handy right here. You would sit there, and if it was on the lathe, okay, you could put this in here, and you can kind of shut this. I was going to say clamp it, but you can shut this. You can bring it back out. It will tell you the thickness as you're going down. So if you're real thick in one area, these will show you by expanding out or contracting in if you're getting a little too thin. So this is good for when you're inside of like a little bit larger hollow forms. I wouldn't so much use it on this, but you could, or a bowl, and you can kind of gauge that thickness by putting this on there. And like if you're down towards the bottom, you put this on there, and as you're dragging it back, if the gap's opening, you can tell you're a little thick somewhere, or are you uniform? So this has become like a real handy tool for me right here. I'm going to show you a couple of others. I'm going to give you a link down below too besides that for calipers. Now almost all wood turners have calipers. I broke one a while back. A friend of mine says, throw it out. I go, no, I got a better idea. I went ahead and I adjusted it for like the width of this jaw that I would normally make that tenon, and then I just put a little braze on here. There's a little brazing rod, heated it up. You could use epoxy, whatever, and lock this permanently. And I keep this over on my lathe, so I know that this one I can always grab. It will consistently always give me, you know, that tenon diameter that I want for my larger chuck jaws. So rather than throw it away, I repurposed it, all right? And these other ones are real handy. I'll leave you the links below. I got a small pair, I got a larger pair. Calipers are calipers. And that's that. And so I hope to see you folks on the next video. I hope you got something out of this. I mean, if I can figure out a way generally to make my own stuff, I do it. So stay in touch. I'll talk to you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.